Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Lucore Automotive. Today, it's engine teardown day. As you can see, I have myself most of an AMC 304. If you've been paying attention to our channel for the last couple of weeks, you know we've gone a really long way down the AMC rabbit hole. And we have two AMCs that are sitting outside. One of which does have an AMC motor in it, one of which does not. Now, AMC AMX #1, the car that I've driven on Hot Rod Power Tour and a whole bunch of other places, does have an AMC 304 in it. It does have a 4-speed transmission in it, but we don't want to disable one car in order to bring another car back. That just doesn't make any sense. So, I happen to have this extra one that ran when pulled. Technically, I guess it did run. But it's not in good shape, so we're going to need to be able to rebuild this thing. So we're going to tear it down today, and we're going to see exactly what the state of this thing is, if it's rebuildable, if it makes sense, can we get it back in one piece so we can get the other car moving. Yeah, so diagnostic teardown, AMC 304, I guess. Stay tuned, should be interesting. So as I said, this is an AMC 304 V8. This is actually the spare motor that came when I purchased the original 1979 AMX that you guys have seen us with. This is an unknown motor from an unknown machine. I believe it came out of some sort of a Jeep. When we fired it up after we got everything done and ready to go, and a beautiful America paint job on it, it didn't run real great. You'll see.
Oil.
Yeah. Oh,
syringe a shot.
Yeah, so that was less than wonderful. So obviously at that point in time we knew that motor was hosed. So we pulled this motor out, put it on an engine stand, and then we built the other 304 that initially had been in that car, which is what's in that car now. So this one, obviously we've done a little bit of teardown. I have the dogleg heads. They are already sitting here. The 2-barrel intake manifold, cast iron guy, and the original Motorcraft carburetor that's on it as well. All of the bits and bots, rockers and ties and all that stuff are all in here. Head bolts, extremely disgusting push rods are all in the valve covers. But we need to tear down the bottom end. Now obviously, as you can see from the video, this thing smoked pretty terribly. So initially we were like, well, it's just a bad ring situation. And everything in this thing, honestly, is really gross. These heads are disgusting. So there's definitely been some oil burn, some oil blow-by for a long time. And, you know, possibly some questionable maintenance, maybe. Anyway, so I'm going to start working on this thing and tear it down, get it down to a bare block, and see what we've got. And then probably going to end up building another 304. So nothing left to do but to do it. Let's get to work. Right away, we're going to notice timing chain's a little sloppy. That's probably fine. Note to self, before rolling this over, get a pan, because it's going to make a mess. Pan. A little bit of a crinkle to the oil pan here. That's probably fine. Maybe hit that with a hammer once we get this off. Flatten that out a little bit. Get this oil pan off. For those of you who are curious, yes, I do work on cars sometimes too. But that's not what I'm here for. And I do make really good messes. An expensive lesson I have learned is keep track of your hardware, your nuts and your bolts. Put them in bags, label the bags. Because if you have to buy all new hardware when you put this thing back together again, it could easily add another couple $100. Especially if you're somebody like me that likes to buy all ARP stuff whenever you lose your bolts. Now, in all honesty, when I was painting this engine, I was a little concerned about the state of this engine and whether or not it was going to be good by the amount of RTV that's on the oil pan. You probably can't see this, but literally this entire section right here is just RTV. So I kind of knew I was in trouble before. Let's see if we can get this pan off without bending it any worse than it already is. Ooh. Ooh.
Is that a different one?
Ooh. All kinds of gross in the bottom of that. That's not good. There's our inner dipstick tube that came off. So you can see here on the oil pickup, there's lots of chunks of stuff. That's bad. Now this can be RTV, this can be, which I think this actually is RTV. This could be gasket material, this could be bearing material, this could be all sorts of different things. None of which you want circulating around in your oiling system. So, no big deal.
I don't remember what brand they were, but they were pretty low.
I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's literally stuff flying up out of the oil pickup. Nope, still not, can't turn it yet by hand. There we go. Now, one thing you're going to want to do when you're doing this, if you've never torn down a motor before, is you have to keep these main caps oriented and in the positions that they're in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot of manufacturers do not label these. AMC actually does. They're stamped with their position. So this is 5, this is 4, this is 3, 2, 1. It's also got an arrow pointing towards which direction the nose of the motor is. So you can't mix this up. Depending on what motor you're tearing down, it may or may not have those markings. If it doesn't, you need to stamp this with something so that you make sure when you go back and reinstall, everything is oriented the way it can be. Otherwise, you are going to have very large problems. So, let's keep tearing this thing down. I do need to pull off the timing set off the front as well. Come on. All right. And gear. Oh. Oh, this poor camshaft. Let's see the scoring on these lobes. This poor camshaft. Oh, this poor camshaft. All right, let's break these main caps loose. Man, there's even junk on the rods. Man, there's all kinds of RTV that's falling into this thing. So you can see how easily this does not spin over. This normally, you would want to see this thing roll over pretty easily. We're not rolling over really at all. At all. At all. Now, same is going to go with rod caps. You're going to want to keep these paired with the rod and the orientation correctly. Don't mix these up. Now, we will probably reuse these rods. Probably. We are definitely not going to reuse these pistons. Oh, why are you not turning? It's supposed to just... Oh, that's not good. Big question is going to be, what did I do with my crank bolt? So remember what I said about keeping track of your bolts and nuts? I don't know where my crank bolt went. In my defense, it has been a couple of months and we've moved a bunch of stuff around. Because I could then put my crank bolt in the end of my crankshaft and use my bolt to be able to turn my crankshaft over. It does not want to turn. So we're going to do things backwards. We're going to take these caps off to alleviate tension on the crank. And then we can roll the crank over and pull all the rods and pistons out. So, whatever. Roll with the punches, man. Roll with the punches. I'm going to pull this way, so it's going to rotate. Just need you to hold
us.
it. Yep. Thank you.
Get that blood pressure up. Come on.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
De nada.
These do have a special stink. Whew. What a smell.
The smell.
Oh, yeah, come over here.
It doesn't smell that motor. It just smells like burned everything.
It's the smell of main cap bolts. If you've never smelled this, it's a special kind of smell. Here, smell my bolt.
Oh my gosh!
I told you. They have a special kind of stink. Here, this one's fresh.
No, I don't want fresh.
Here, this one's
No,
fresh.
I want fresh. I'm good. I don't want fresh. Don't be fresh with me.
Whew. The old bag of bolts. Stinky, stinky, stinky bolts. Yeah, some of these even have like RTV on the bolt. You probably can't see this, but there's actually RTV.
Solid.
Wow. Okay, those bearings are definitely... Those bearings are not perfect. They're definitely scarred, but there is still plenty of bearing material here. You're still on the silver. You haven't gotten to the brass part inside the bearings, so those could be a whole lot worse than they are. That's good. And again, as I said, AMC, can you see this?
Yep.
Labels the position of the cap and the orientation of the cap. There's an arrow there. Hopefully you can see that. There's an arrow here, and that's position number 1. So, front cap goes that way. Hopefully you can see this. You can see the groove cut into this. There's a couple of different grooves cut into this bearing where it ate something. The difference in the bearing surfaces. Again, it's just had stuff that's gone through it and gone through the bearings. The bearing material is still all there, but it's definitely got grooving in it. And then the rear cap. Oh. Hopefully you guys can see that. This bearing is eaten. Whatever got in this. I mean, it's just... It was not long for this world.
Yeah, so let's raise it up and then we'll lower
It
it
does
down.
have a toe hook on it.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Yeah.
Alright, coming up.
Wow. What a stupid problem to have. I don't know that I've ever torn down a motor that I couldn't turn the crankshaft.
Didn't Rich say something about that in one of these things? When the crankshaft didn't turn, something was wrong?
What motor is that one? Is that the,
It's the extra 304 that I got when I bought the first AMX.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The one that was sitting in that garage on the floor.
They gave you the second engine with it?
Yeah, this is the, it ran when cold.
cold. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Are you recording?
I mean, technically it did run when when we fired it up. It just leaked every fluid and smoked.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Yeah, like grab a hold of the nose of this.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can turn this. Grab that, see if you can turn it. You should be able to rotate this thing.
Yeah, no, I've watched them do it. Yeah, this is not good.
Grab it with a freaking pair of channel locks and try
This
to
is
turn
not
it.
good.
This is why this motor's getting torn apart. Well, this and many other reasons. But
It smells terrible.
doesn't it? Yeah. There's a special kind of stink that comes out of these.
It's a special kind of something.
My question's going to be if this crankshaft is even savable. So the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm definitely worried about whether or not this crankshaft will be savable or not. Obviously, as you can see on the bearings, they've gotten quite a bit of wear on them. But the other side of that, if it's wearing on this side, it's also going to wear on this side. So like especially with this back one where you can see it's wearing the hell out of this, that also means it's going to wear the crankshaft out. So we may have to turn the crankshaft, or this crankshaft may be junk. We'll have to see how that works out. But I also got to get the dang thing out of here first. These are stuck.
Okay. Can we pull the crank out of the way? Just entirely? Right?
There you go.
Okay. Try this again now.
That's pretty tight.
Pretty, a little wiggly.
I mean, this is supposed to come out of the hole.
I think I found the piston that was holding you up.
There you
Oh.
go. Now she's loose. No, she's not. There we go. Get her.
Oh.
Well, that was definitely a lot more of a pain in the neck than it needed to be. And unfortunately, this second bearing is partially spun as well. Now the good news is with these AMC 304 blocks is the block's thickness, the cylinder wall thickness is massive. You can take these things out to an obscene bore over to clean up the cylinder wall, so I'm not real worried about that. What I am worried about is the crankshaft, I think, is probably toast. 304, 360 crankshafts are interchangeable, so you know I can find a crankshaft. That's not a big deal. The block, they're super available. It's not a big deal. But there's definitely some things already so far that I'm a little worried about. And while I've had this sitting upside down, you may not notice this, but there was actually none of my lifters for the camshaft have fallen out of the bores. So this is a lifter that I'm pushing on that's supposed to slide out of this bore and be able to slide up and down, and they don't slide at all. Well, that one does. That one might fall. Yeah. So they're all extremely tight in their bores. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep cleaning this thing down, knocking everything out of it, take all the rest of the bearings out of it, knock all the lifters out, and then we'll see where we are. Well, it's just totally torn down. Got freeze-off plugs left to knock out, but not a big deal. As far as the main line goes through here with the crank, this bearing does look like it was spun, the number 2 bearing, but it doesn't seem like it has damaged the surface where the bearing actually sits. I've still got cross-hatching in here. It doesn't look like it's damaged anything. Now it does look like it did probably damage my crankshaft, so you know that part sucks, but it is what it is. We can get past that. Our lifter bores honestly do concern me. I'm gonna be positive and I'm gonna hope that these are okay. They don't feel bad, but essentially every single one of those lifters was frozen in their lifter bores, which is not good. If the lifter bores are screwed, this block is toast. If it has issues with the mains, this block is toast, because they're not worth anything. I can pick up a brand new 304 block for, well, not a brand new, but another crappy old 304 block for almost nothing. The cylinders, the ring ridge is hilarious, especially on a couple of these on this side. I mean, we're talking like it's going to go 60 or 80 over to even come close to cleaning this up. Now, the nice thing is with these AMC 304s is they have a crikey load of material that you could take off those cylinder walls. So those will clean up. I'm actually not concerned about that at all. They are terrible, but they will clean up. So next step is going to be put this thing in the tank, take out the plugs and everything, put this in the tank, and then see exactly where we are. And we'll probably take it to Mike up at M&M at that point in time and have him go through the block and check everything, see exactly where we are, see if it's recoverable, if it's buildable. You know, then we're in business and we can make ourselves another 304 mil. If not, you know, we just got to start over again. Unfortunately, this is one of those things where you really never know until you get it torn down and see exactly what you got. You know, you may be wasting an entire afternoon tearing a motor down to figure out that it's just toast and that camshaft is hosed. It's, I think, probably the original camshaft because everything on there is scored and worn. The bearings were destroyed. It obviously had been eating something. But, you know, you never know until you get in there. So, there we go. AMC 304 Teardown. I think I've done two of these so far. What we're going to do with this motor, honestly, I don't know. I just wanted to get this one torn down. I've had it sitting back here on an engine stand since we put the other motor in the other AMC AMX. But it could be a good candidate to get the other number 2 AMC that you guys have just recently seen back up and running. If we can get this block machined and put back together again, I've got rods. If the crank is okay, we've got a crankshaft. You know, we've got a couple things that we could do kind of a budget 304 to keep it moving. And then we can sort out everything else in it while we're working on a bigger, badder motor for it. The nice thing with the AMC stuff is it all fits in the same hole. It's all the same stuff. So if we get the car running on an AMC 304, a 360 fits in exactly the same hole, bolts up exactly the same way. So we can do a cheap budget build to get through, 304 to get it running, if possible, and then swap out to the 360 once that thing's all done. Because I that's going to be a lot more than just a cheap little budget build. That's going to get a lot more crazy. So, but at least with a 304 in it, we can get it moving, and we could sort out the chassis and everything else we want to sort out on that car. So anyway, there you go. That's the end of this one. AMC 304 teardown and diagnostic, I guess. We could certainly see why it was not running real well, and it was burning everything and leaking every fluid, because there's gasket material and RTV on everything. Everything's worn out, everything's bad. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for good. So we'll keep you guys updated on how this goes. We appreciate you guys as always being here. Thank you very much for following us, for subscribing to our channel. All the comments and the subscriptions have really been amazing. We really appreciate that. The channel growth has been awesome for us. We're just a small town shop here in Central Ohio trying to do cool stuff and share a little bit of it with you guys. It's not fancy. It's not highly produced. This is not a TV show stuff. This is a real shop. So thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Drop a comment, subscribe, click the like button, all that jazz. I'm going to put this thing in the tank after I get these plugs out. We'll keep you guys updated on the progress. Take it easy. Bye-bye.